In this video, I will bust some dieting myths. Chances are that if you're here, you've been doing everything right, following the official guidelines, and you haven't lost the weight that you wanted to lose. And I just wanted to start this off by letting you know that it's not your fault. You've been given some really terrible advice. People want you to follow the mainstream, but it's really not good information. Because all we've been told is calories in, calories out, calorie deficits, move more, and all these different diets are basically the same things like shakes and smoothies and soups. It's all low-calorie crap. And let's face it, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. So let's do a better job. Let's look into what actually happens for our body to be able to burn fat and how we can achieve it. You've probably inherited this belief that it's your fault that you cannot lose the weight because probably one of your parents, usually the mother, kind of had the same story in her head and passed it on to you. But you were not born like that. You were born perfect. In fact, babies are born in the state of ketosis. This is the ultimate fat burning state. And why is that? Because babies need to be able to burn fat. First of all, for fuel, to fuel their metabolism, and second of all, to keep warm. Let me remind you, we're born without any fur on us. There is a lesson there. Those old dietary paradigms, frankly, need to die because they go against nature and they're not working, clearly. So I've prepared this video to invite you to change your perspective, to look into other evidence and make up your own mind, maybe be open to new possibilities, okay? So let's look into the old paradigms of calories in, calories out, and actually energy production. Weight loss happens when your brain receives accurate information on the energy status of your body, how much body fat you have, because fat is stored energy. And we also need our mitochondria in the cells, those powerhouses, to produce enough energy so that cells can perform all their daily functions. And the metabolic rate also depends very much on your thyroid function. And the thyroid function works on light. You need morning sunlight exposure to get your thyroid working correctly. That's besides having iodine and zinc and selenium in your body to actually make those hormones. Consider that human animals living at different latitudes have different needs. People living at the equator, as opposed to people, let's say, living in Sweden, will have completely different solar yield, the strength of the sun. They will have completely different foods naturally available to them. Mass agriculture and globalization may enable us to eat pineapples in the dead of winter anywhere in the world, but is that a good thing? The solar yield at your location has to match the amount of carbohydrates you're eating, the type of carbohydrates that's available at your latitude at that specific moment. This is how nature is designed, yeah, but if you want to understand why this is important, let's look at deuterium, the heavy isotope of hydrogen, which breaks mitochondria, breaks your energy production. If you know that the higher amount of heavy hydrogen, deuterium, in your body is eliminated by stronger sun, it makes sense then that carbohydrates are stored by nature in the starchy, sugary parts of fruit and also grains, obviously, and animals who eat grains are higher in deuterium. So if higher deuterium is eliminated with stronger sun and sweat, does it make sense to you now that the higher carbohydrate diets need to be eaten in the strong sun, in the sun that matches the location where those carbohydrates grew? Living in the northern latitude will not overload you with deuterium if you eat naturally, and also the solar yield is weaker, so it completely makes sense. Nature is designed to work like that. And if you want to be healthy and lose weight, you need to follow this principle. We're supposed to eat carbohydrate-rich foods in the sun. Nobody talks about that. Also, your mitochondrial DNA haplogroup plays a role here. This is your timestamp in the genetic makeup of your engine, your mitochondria, in your maternal line. Basically, it tells you what kind of temperature and light exposure you should mimic in your environment, because this is what your mitochondria expect in order to work correctly. And if you test your haplogroup, it can also be a good insight into how much time you should spend in ketosis. So to wrap up this point, your latitude, your haplogroup, and the seasonality, which season currently you're living in, they all play a role in what you should eat, and your light exposure and everything. It all works together. That's why meal plans are simply dumb. The old paradigm will tell you that running on a treadmill is a great way to lose weight. But in fact, chronic cardio will increase your stress hormones, which will increase your insulin, which will increase your blood sugar, and will lower your ability to burn fat. What we should seek instead of high cortisol and high stress, we should seek metabolic flexibility. Your body should be able to burn carbohydrates when needed, burn fat when it's needed, and switch seamlessly between the two. This is the metabolic flexibility we're talking about. This is what you're designed to do. Your body's designed to do that, depending on the season, depending on whether you're fasting, depending on whether you're in Africa or in the Northern Pole. You need to be able to switch between the two in order to be able to lose weight and be healthy. We burn fat as we sleep in our deep phases of sleep. And even one night of poor sleep can make you pre-diabetic the next day. That's why circadian rhythm is so important. We need to watch our hormones. We need to watch our light exposure. We need to block artificial light. We need to be in the natural light when the sun is out, because we want our hormonal balance to be optimal, right? We want our master hormone leptin to work correctly, and leptin works with light. Your leptin signaling will determine whether your body will be burning fat or not. Another factor in your weight loss journey is water. Water quality is huge. If your water is rich in mitochondrial disruptors like fluoride, you will never recover. You will never get better. If your water comes from poor sources, it will also have more deuterium in it, which means that your mitochondrial energy production will be compromised. Deuterium also comes into play with our supplementation. Most supplements are made from cheap materials. They carry synthetic fillers. Their capsule is made of the gelatin from grain-fed animals, which is higher in deuterium. This heavy hydrogen deuterium is a big factor that stops so many people from achieving their goals, whether it's weight loss or hormonal balance. All of these different modern diseases, we have to look into deuterium, because what deuterium does, it breaks your powerhouses of the cell. You cannot produce enough energy. Energy plummets, you gain weight, you start having all these different diseases. If this has piqued your interest, I invite you to watch a free webinar on my site about how to turn on ancestral programs to lose weight and heal.